Ooh, okay. Good afternoon. Where is Monica? Monica's here. Okay. Thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the World Bank for the invitation. It's so absolutely lovely to be here. For a change, I never come to Europe. Um, 22 years of World Bank. I just work in the south, so it's good to be here wearing this kind of fancy clothes, and it's good for a change. But anyway, I'm very, very delighted to be here and moderate this session with some absolutely outstanding experts at all level. Um, I wanted to go straight to the conversation. Let me introduce our four speakers. Let me start with Mariela. I need glasses as well. Mariela Pino from Gaia, the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, is a network with more than 1,000 grassroots organizations in 92 countries. Right. So we are delighted to have you here. Then we have Catalina Vatuone. She works in Implementa Sur, which is a private consultancy firm based in Chile. Also a pleasure to have you here. We have the president that Goran mentioned, Carlos Silva Filho, the president of ISVA, No Solid Waste Association, and we have many, many members here. So pleasure to have you here as well, Carlos. And finally, Marcelo Rosso from the Center of Excellence for Circular Economy and Climate Change, coming from Argentina. So it's a pleasure. We were debating if you're going to speak Portuguese and Spanish, but I think it has to be in English, right? So let me go to the speakers and start with the president, not for any reason, but because I thought it would be good to start with the global perspective of solid waste. Also, ISVA, they just launched in February, right? Last month, the Global Waste Outlook, which is the latest assessment of the sector. So I have asked Carlos if you could kindly give us share with us some of the main findings of the outlook and give us the perspective of the sector globally. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Stefania. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be to have you chairing this panel, as you mentioned, from the other side of the Atlantic, so we could come and join this session here. Thank you very much, Monica, and all the team from GMI for inviting me. And as we were discussing before, I'm from the time when it was not even GMI, but Methane to Markets. So I'm feeling quite old here. In this room with this audience, but very, very, I would say, at home, because it's kind of like a family reunion. We are meeting old friends, we are making new friends, we are really talking, and I'm really, really happy to be here and see that some of the, thank you, very familiar faces. So thank you very much. I prepared some slides with the graphs and new figures from the Global Waste Management Outlook. The one we launched now at the end of February. It has been a joint report prepared by both UNEP and ISWA. It took us 4 years to prepare it. So the first outlook was launched in 2015, and then the second one was supposed to be launched in 2020, but then some delays, the pandemic came, and then we've been able to launch it this February with the new figures, and I would say it's the most comprehensive. This is Marcelo's, so I'll just yes, some spoiler from Marcelo's presentation. So so this is the most comprehensive research about waste in the world, because we developed a new methodology to try to find data. You all know, those who are familiar with a waste sector, how easy is to find data about waste. in the different countries to harmonize concepts and definitions. So it took us a while, but we are happy on how we reached these new figures. So I was thinking like what to present here today, and as I know, like I'll be accompanied here by many experts. I try to bring these new figures and try to contextualize it on this Latin American perspective. So this new publication shows us that the world has generated 2.12 billion tons of municipal waste in 2020. The baseline of this report is 2020, so it's when we could harmonize most of the data available. And if we consider this the regionalization of the waste generation, if you look at the report, we have like divided it into different regions and following UNEP's divisions of the world. So here we have Central America and the Caribbean as one of the regions, and South America as the other region. So combining then, trying to get the Latin American figure, we have 520 million tons of municipal waste generated, so representing 24% of the total waste generated in the world. So it's quite representative, and just a kind of like a minor snapshot from Brazil, from where I come. And Brazil accounts for 80 million tons of waste per year, so kind of like a 16% of Latin American representation. If we look into the waste, the municipal solid waste composition, so this is another figure we brought on the report, we can see like most of the waste, municipal waste generated in the world. So the first bar on the left side is the global average. The most of the municipal waste generated in the world is food and garden waste. And like if we compare to the Latin American situation, we have a little bit higher this participation of municipal organic waste. And then also another point here, a remarkable point here, we can see like plastics are really representative on this composition. So we are all following these negotiations for the plastic agreement, the international document. The next meeting will be mid-April, so in almost a month from now. So plastics is really representative throughout the world and in the region as well. And the destination. So waste destination in the world. First, we analyzed what was considered as a controlled destination and what's not controlled destination. So uncontrolled destination, meaning open dump sites and open burning, corresponds to 38% of the total destination in the world. This is the biggest problem. This is, as Gordon mentioned before, this is from really where we need to start. And then within the controlled destination, we have 30% of the waste going to landfills, 13% to waste to energy, and 19% going to recycling. So the global recycling average in the world is 19%. This is another very impressive figure. Again, if we change lenses to Latin, we can see like we still have a lot of uncontrolled destination and a lot of landfilling and less recycling, so much lesser than global average. So another point to have an observation and in terms of addressing the challenges. So now we look into greenhouse gases emissions. And here I try to bring some of the most recent figures. If we look at the total greenhouse gases emissions, we can see a waste down below on that green arrows there, so corresponding to something around 3% of the total greenhouse gases emissions. If we look into the CO2 emissions, then I ask you, where do we see waste as a sector from CO2 emissions? We don't see CO2, the waste sector represented as a CO2 emitter. But when we look into methane emissions, then it's a big concern, because then we see the waste sector, the waste industry, being quite well represented with around 10 to 12% of the total methane emissions, or the third largest emitter. And here again, another a snapshot from Brazil, what we calculated last year, how much methane or CO2 equivalent have been emitted by the waste sector. So, and here I bring for us to really have a reflection on that. And I must thank here Aditya Ramola, the technical director of ISVA, and jointly prepared this infographic for a new article we just published last month. And it's kind of like if from one side the waste sector represents or contributes to 3% of the total GHG emissions, on the other side it has a huge potential, and mostly in terms of methane reduction, because this perception of having like a low a representation in the total emissions has taken the waste sector as a kind of sidelined in all the conversation, because it doesn't contribute that much. So the perception is it cannot that much, but whether we can really reduce the emissions from the direct emissions from the composition of organic waste or other direct emissions, also the waste sector can really contribute in the overall mitigation of like 15, 20, 25%, no matter like how much it's really there, the number, but there is a huge potential in terms of waste prevention, in terms of recycling, and in terms of energy recovery. So this is another analysis we brought from GWMO2, because we consider three different scenarios approach. One is the business as usual or waste management as usual. The other one, the second scenario, the intermediate scenario, is the waste under control. And the third scenario is the circular waste management. If we continue business or waste management as usual, the greenhouse gas emissions from will grow up to 91% by 2050. If we bring waste, meaning that we close dump sites, that we stop open burning, that we really improve recycling, and we stabilize the generation, the greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 69%. But if we can go a step further, if we can really prevent waste generation, if we can improve organics treatment, if we can really achieve, and this is the target that we measured for the Global Waste Management Outlook, 60% of recycling, then the greenhouse gas emissions will be reduced by 154% in 2050. And this means that we really need to go for a circular economy system. This means that if we go to these next steps, instead of having a full net cost of $640 billion by 2050 under the waste management as usual, we can have a full net gain of $108 billion by 2050. So besides having an environmental positive impact, besides having greenhouse gases emissions reduction, the overall emissions, and besides improving people's life, we can also bring $108 billion positive of net gain to the economy. So we believe that this is the only way forward, and we need to start now. And to start now, we need funds, we need resources, we need projects, we need initiatives. And this is the reason why during COP28, at the first ever Waste and Resources Pavilion at COP, we launched the Triple M initiative. From ISVA, the Triple M initiative is a new initiative to really catalyze resources and efforts to support the transition from organic waste going to dump sites, organic organic waste going to landfills, and really valorizing, let's say, these initiatives as they must be considered according to the global warming potential of these emissions, and according to this future that we believe it's the only way forward. So I thank you very much and look forward to our discussions.
Thank you, Carlos. Marcelo, if you can bring us, I think you have to go back, right? To Latin America in general, your perspective.
Sorry. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of the forum for the invitation to participate in this event. The Center of Excellence on Circular Economy and Climate Change was created by ISWA national members of the ISWA Latin American chapter, the chapter that I represent. Sorry, I will read the presentation in order to achieve for the time of the presentation. Well, regarding the situation of household waste management in Latin America and the Caribbean, we can refer to the statistic of the UN 2018. Now there is a new one, as Carlos told you, which it was established that on the total waste generated, approximately 27% of was improperly disposed on in open dams. At the same time, it established a growing trend in waste generation in future. That is consistent with the information that Carlos said. If we take into consideration the latest figures published in the hub portal of the Solid Waste and Circular Economy on the Inter-America Development Bank, the amount of waste that end up in open dams is 26.8% plus 15% that is destined to landfill whose technologies is not the most appropriated. From that, what has been said, we can conclude that in order to mitigate polluting emissions, the first should address is closure and eradicate the open dams, to move to a system which differentiated recyclable materials, organic waste, and the remaining fraction, or at least that all waste is disposed on sanitary landfills with the current technologies. Here we have some examples of biogas capture the region, either as electricity or biomethane. In this case, Argentina has 5 plants to generate 23 megawatts hour of electricity that is supplied to the grid. These projects were made feasible through tenders for the purchase of renewable energies. Here are some pictures of some of the plants that in question. This case is from an electricity generation plant using biogas from a landfill in Chile, in that case 24 megawatts. This is a plant generating biomethane from landfill gas in Brazil. Another biomethane biogas from landfill gas in Brazil also. This is a small facility fair plant in Colombia. And another landfill gas power plant, this time in Mexico. So, but all know that landfill degassing is not a most system in terms of biogas capture, as it has a active and it is as efficient as an aerobic digestion system. Therefore, if we consider that the putrescible organic matter contents of household waste is on average 50%, the obvious recommendation is to move rapidly towards a differentiated collection system for organic waste in order to subject it to anaerobic treatment and therefore obtain biogas. In order to carry out this change of practice, barriers such as the change of collection system, adaptation of electricity regulation, among other aspects, and the necessary financial resources to carry out the changes and build anaerobic digestion facilities must be broken down. There are currently 28 anaerobic digestion facilities in Argentina, but all of them use agricultural substrates and not household waste. If we consider the potential for the use of organic material from organic agro-industry in just 3 provinces of Argentina, we can see that the potential is enormous. According to estimation, Argentina is currently between Austria and Ukraine, but if all of the agro-industry organic material from these 3 provinces were to be valorized, Argentina would rank 4th between Italy and France. In that case, for example, we can see that we can build 202 biomethane plants as a complement to natural gas, or 3 plants as a biogas fuel from transport. This case in Buenos Aires, this different order. Okay. Sorry. This is Buenos Aires case, 202 plants. Another example is the city or the province of Córdoba with 36 plants in potential, and the province of Santa Fe. But on the other hand, if we consider the putrescible organic matter from organic household solid waste, we could generate 2 million cubic meters of biomethane, equivalent to 172 megawatts. To finish, I wanted to share with you from the Center of Excellence in Circular Economy and Climate Change, we have collaborated with the drafting of the document on the opportunities of the sector in Chile. Thank you very much, and I think that I achieved the 6 minutes.
Gracias, Marcelo. Catalina, if you can bring us to Chile now, go into the example of what you're doing in the country, please.
Thank you. I'll just go and find my slides. And there it is. Okay, so thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation, really. My name is Carolina Matuone. I'm a consultant at Implemented Tour, which is a consulting firm based in Chile, and that is currently leading efforts to accomplish methane emissions reduction in the global south, really. So Latin America and the Caribbean, but we also now working in some countries in the Pacific, Africa and South Asia as well. We focus on initiatives within the waste sector, such as the one I will be presenting to you today, which is the Recycle Organics program. Okay. And I will start by just giving you a bit of context. So in 2017, the government of Canada provided Implemented with funds to develop the Recycle Organics program in Chile. We provided assistance to 14 municipalities with pre-feasibility studies. We also worked on capacity building, and we participated in the elaboration of the National Organic Waste Strategy. And the program was a success, and so the Global Methane Hub in 2022 provided funds to expand the program to more countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we partnered with CCAP. We're now working together jointly in this program. And we have continued growing our impact. And now we're, as I said before, working with new funders and new countries in the Pacific, Africa, and South Asia, countries such as Togo, Maldives, Samoa, Fiji, and all those. So our experience have really allowed us to understand that the challenges of the Global South required us to work in 3 areas coordinately. So first, providing policy support in the form of, for example, sectoral plans that transform NDC commitments into real investment plans. Secondly, accelerating project portfolios and MRV systems, which we do by developing pre-feasibility studies, detailed engineering, and giving guidance on suitable financing models. And so we also work, so this is the final one, but equally important, really. We work on capacity building and promoting really south-to-south knowledge exchange. We are actually now, with the support of Let's Like, coordinating a community of practice in the LAC region that focuses on methane reduction within the waste sector. So just some numbers: through more than 100 projects, we have supported 21 countries, and we have mobilized around 30 million euros. We have mitigation potential for our project portfolio of over 37 million tons of CO2 equivalent, using global warming potential of 20 years, which is the ambition we want to focus in order to slow down the increase in temperatures. So this is just a table to show you the countries we have worked with or we are currently working with, and as well as the different type of assistance we have provided. So starting by pre-feasibility analysis, we like to focus on different type of technologies. So landfill gas to energy projects, anaerobic digestion, large-scale composting, home composting. We think that we need to tackle the problem with different solutions, really. We have also developed detailed engineering for large-scale composting, mostly projects, and, well, developing action plans, roadmaps, guidelines for public policy area, MRV frameworks, GHG inventories, and implemented some trainings, workshops, and really promoting knowledge exchange. And what I'd like to highlight here is that the strategy to push the methane reduction agenda in the Global South is really very similar between countries. And that's because they face very similar barriers, as we saw just in the panel before, right, in the southeast of Europe. So very similar barriers, very similar institutional frameworks. So there's very enormous potential to really think about connecting stakeholders and to think about economy of scale. I would like to share a good example of a project that we recently worked in Chile, and I think it's a good example, but I will give you a bit of context. So in 2022, the Climate Change Framework Law was published in Chile, and what it says is that key sectors must publish a sectoral mitigation plan by the end of this year. And one of those key sectors is the waste sector. So the Ministry of Health has the responsibility to publish the sectoral mitigation plan by the end of this year. And during 2023, what we did was to help the Ministry of Health. We provided a set of 6 mitigation measures that we think are needed to accomplish the national goals within the waste sector. They have a mitigation potential of 75 million tons of CO2 by 2050. Some technologies that we focused on were the food waste reduction, paper and cardboard recycling, composting, both large scale, home scale as well, anaerobic digestion, and of course, land gas capture systems. But not only that, the Chilean ambition is really big in this sector, really. So what we also did was to propose a comprehensive list of enabling actions to highlight multiple paths that could be taken to accomplish the mitigation measure objectives. And it was a real success. Now the project, so the Ministry of Health is taking most of this proposal to further discuss with national stakeholders and to build really the sectoral plan that we hope is published by the end of this year. So why I presented this example is because I do think that we believe as a program that this transforming commitments, NDC commitments into real action plans, investment plans, it's really the next step that many countries in the global south should be taking. And just to finish with my last slide, I would like to share with you some opportunities we believe that are still there to expand the impact, the program's impact. First, it is really important to work scaling up and multiplying examples. There are many pilot projects in the Latin American region, but there are also many good examples of successful large-scale projects that should be shared, and its learning should be taken into account when scaling up pilot projects. And I'm connecting here with the last opportunity that is presented in the slide, which is the continuation of improving capacities and promoting knowledge sharing, really. We think that it's very important that not only developers and operators understand the methodologies, the designs, the barriers, but really the whole chain of stakeholders that are involved in the life cycle of these projects. And just to finish, as I said before, we believe that there's great opportunity in transforming NDC targets into concrete investment plans. And for that, it is key to evaluate and assess mitigation measures, but it is also important to identify opportunities to strengthen the institutional, regulatory, and political frameworks. And with that, I'm not really talking about general guidelines, but really identifying real programs, plans, laws, standards that should be modified or created in case they are not there. So the measures are implemented at the rate we really need them to be implemented. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much. We'll go through the analysis slides itself. There are many. Okay. There you
are. Thank you, Catalina. Mariela, it's a pleasure for you to talk to a very, very important aspect, the waste at least in Latin America, which is about the people. We have lots of open dumps and all problems that we saw before and we all face, but also we have a huge informality across Latin America. We are all yours to hear about environmental justice in the sector.
Yeah, thank you, Monica, and everybody behind the organization of this forum. We are actually quite happy and proud to be here. This is a big momentum for our movement and, of course, for Methane, which is bringing us together here this week. Also, in the sake of time, I printed a script because I would go easily for many minutes, and we have key messages to deliver. So I'm going to briefly try to bring you like a spotlight on methane mitigation work taking place in Latin America, pretty much in line with what Catalina has been telling us today, which is quite relevant. But very important is that we are bringing the environmental justice perspective. We are going to have actually like a session on about that on Wednesday, so you are all invited to join. So first of all, Gaia, right? Gaia, it's a global alliance for incineration alternatives. It's a network that brings together more than 1,000 grassroots and civil society organizations from 5 regions of the world, as you can see in the map. We are only not working actively in Oceania, right? But most of other countries are within our alliance. We are working together, of course, waste and justice issues worldwide. And for more than 20 years, we have been embracing this beautiful work, which wasn't before recognized as it is today. More than ever, we are aligned around policy work for methane reaction under a socioeconomic environmental perspective. So specifically, probably in this audience, you are not that familiarized, but today I will briefly introduce you to our opportunities and challenges and the work we are doing in Latin America. And we will be here the following days so we can further engage in conversations and get in contact and so on. As you might be aware of opportunities and challenges, there are nowadays many dots that could be connected when dealing with waste and specifically organic waste streams. First of all, as we have been hearing it in this session now, we still have a lot to be done in order to integrate a sustainable solid waste framework with emphasis on waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and redesign, all under this perspective. In the region, we still have a lot of dump sites. We have open burns and insufficient waste collection in Latin America. Those governments and local municipalities are often pressured to invest in end of the pipe, for example, waste to energy, pyrolysis of plastics like chemical recycling, RDF production, etc., which poses obstacles to upstream solutions, contributing to climate change and being too expensive and polluting. That's a reality, and therefore for us it's a very big opportunity to be really glad today to share with you that in Latin America you will find a region with a lot of family farming, with agroecology and urban agriculture which can easily gain adherence, even more, create more inertia. And there are already strong movements promoting and developing food sovereignty and ensuring that the soil fertility is preserved, as our health and nutrition actually depends on that. On top of that, waste pickers and community-based and civil society are solid actors with local knowledge, already implementing solutions and developing roadmaps and doing a lot of advocacy work so that more stakeholders would engage and join this effort. So, in a region with a fast-growing population, with biodiversity, pollution, and climate crises, right? How can we ensure a fair and sustainable implementation of waste solutions while not seeing this as a profit-driven businesses only? So together with our members, we have identified diverse weaknesses and the lack of political alignment and strategy and financing. For instance, it's something that we identify. We have seen also a lot of a lack of corporate accountability and alignment with planetary health, and therefore failure to engage with issues of justice. And they are still promoted and quite financed false solutions like waste to energy, pyrolysis, and incineration. Therefore, the only possible path we see feasible and required is to develop and implement diverse solutions framed in the zero waste approach. And what is that zero waste approach? Well, first of all, I would like everybody to invite to read this report, which was recently launched. In this report, we have an analysis of 8 cities that are quite diverse in their climate, in their richness and poverty, and the waste management that they have currently. And therefore, it means that all cities in the world could follow one of those zero waste approaches. And what is zero waste approach, right? It means to adopt changes and follow a different lifestyle. Zero waste, it's actually a climate game changer. In our report, we conclude that even up to 84% of the emissions of waste within the cities can be capped. By doing so, also an additional societal benefits can be achieved. Again, you are all invited on Wednesday to go and check further what it means to our environmental justice principles. But the vision of systemic change towards zero waste, as I just told you, needs to be framed in these principles. In these principles, we have actually summed up work for more than 2 decades. And in general, through the members' work that we have, I always say that Gaia, it's like a big body, and our legs and our arms are the members who are in the territories and have the local knowledge. And they are the ones that nowadays are making significant progress because through national circular economy strategies, roadmaps, regional pacts, national strategies, and framework law for waste management, our members in the region, including, of course, waste pickers associations, are well-positioned forces for monitoring, for developing public dialogue, and creating a strategic vision beyond short-term solutions, showing actually which are the projects that should be financed and promoted. Our members have diverse connections with local and national governments and could leverage reliable information and the construction of a waste narrative in connection with climate to promote changes in a territory highly vulnerable vulnerable to impacts of climate change. Likewise, the holistic perspectives provided by territorial organizations ensure an approach to integral solutions that considers the early dimensions of avoiding food waste, food sovereignty, and agroecology. Furthermore, the role of waste pickers in collecting recyclable materials and the emergence of cooperatives that are also separately collecting and recovering organic waste strengthens the case to position this sector as a service providers and to pursue formalization, improving livelihoods and waste management systems, something that not only Latin America needs, but also the whole global South. So this is just a few slides of our members' work. It's a pity I could not bring more here because we don't have enough time, but just for you to have an idea and to showcase what we are doing. In regards, for instance, to composting, there are several examples of waste pickers, organizations, and management, but also civil society work. On the right side of the slide, you will see pictures of the Bogota waste associations in Colombia, who are part of the Global Alliance of Waste Pickers, whom I invite you to follow. But this is also happening in Chile, in Argentina, and Peru, and of course in Brazil, as you can see in this report, where Polis, one of our members from also the Zero Waste Alliance in Brazil, it's documenting and bringing in a very interesting case study, which works with advocacy, of course. And nowadays, it's not only working in Sao Paulo with the first project, which is called Composta Cultiva, but now they are scaling it up actually to the whole country. On top of that, for instance, when it comes to methane production avoidance and mapping, we have members dealing with food waste and also mapping the cases throughout the country in Ecuador through our Zero Waste Alliance in that country. That country has a posting network specifically. You can see it in the slide on the left. Those are from civil society, but also some of them link with waste pickers and so on. And on the picture below, you can see the mapping of how those initiatives are actually dealing with methane mitigation in the country. Top of in the picture, you can see work being done by Fundación Bas, actually dealing with street markets to make awareness raising into general public in terms of food waste avoidance. And so last but not least, the work with municipalities and local governments is crucial. We all know that. Peru, from Amazonia into the south, providing technical assistance waste pickers integration. And civil society awareness raising and environmental education is key. We have mentioned that. It's of work and big network of agroecology organizations are promoting food waste and food sovereignty in Argentina, many other countries in the region. And also we have in Patagonia organizations working in the tourism sector, which is also being approached with the zero waste approach. So the, sorry, I didn't, I missed that slide, but you can see it later as well. The main key takeaways that I would like you to bring home is that we definitely need to shift finance from waste to energy towards upstream solutions with a zero waste strategy and an environmental justice perspective, which are, of course, to be taken into account. We have a priority on waste hierarchy. You can see it in our report, and which, of course, have the call. It's not to invest anymore in false solutions, but in systemic change. It is important to have financial resources aligned with these principles and to support political opportunities where we already find sparks at the local and municipality levels. For instance, the strategy on organic management in Chile, you see it's now going quite far with the law on also avoiding the organic waste going into landfills, but municipalities really need the finance to implement those activities. So methane reaction in the region opens up a crucial opportunity to move towards zero waste models, building in the strong work that already is being done in the region. And it's key to addressing the methane emissions challenge of waste diversion, right, from landfills, by supporting the reincorporation of compost and also digestates into productive soils and tackling urban farming, agroecology, and food waste avoidance. But because it's not just relevant to capture the methane from landfills, it's also quite relevant nowadays to work towards the nutrition of our soils. So this is our presentation. I really invite you to join us in making this happen and to download our resources. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It always amazes me every time I'm working on waste. I'm focusing on waste sanitation and agri at the bank. So when I talk to my waste colleagues, it always amazes me that the perception that waste is dirty, is pollution, and every talking to a government. I work in the South. I work with poor countries, not developing countries like here in Europe. And the needs are huge and the amount of finance is so little. And when I tell them that what we know, the research, and I think this is not the total because we don't know. We are learning how much is the waste, right? The output, all this we still don't know. But the perception, more or less, the idea we have is that the circular economy, if we look at waste, something dirty as pollution, but if we look at as a resource that is being completely inefficiently managed and brutally inefficiently managed, because that's what we have in our hands, right? Is if we throw away half of an apple, we are throwing away soil, water, we are throwing away energy, we are throwing away labor. It's so much we are just throwing away with that half apple. But it's the more or less the figures of 4.5 trillion economy that we are just inefficiently throwing away. And coming from the bank, from the World Bank, I say that because everybody looks at us and say, "Oh, you are the finance guys. No, you have the money." Yeah. So the people look at us always, "Oh, the money guys," and we are like, "But you are throwing away your money." So there is something very serious. Why are you calling me if you have this amazing wealth? I understand you need the policies are wrong, the subsidies are wrong, the attitudes are wrong, the perceptions are wrong. There are so much to change. But I think for me, and I keep thinking, perhaps I'm completely wrong, prove me wrong, please. But I think a lot of it is really perception. And the previous panel was talking a lot about education, and I couldn't agree more with you. So I wanted to turn, starting with Mariela, because you are at the closest to the people. What is it that you think that is needed? Because you are doing and people are doing, when you talk to a farmer, he or she knows. That's why they do the family farmer, the composting. I remember growing up in Brazil and being sitting, drinking something, and the little boys looking for the things to recycle the poop. What do you think that is needed to trigger the change of perception, but at scale? Because one thing I wanted to ask the panel here, and perhaps that could be a conversation with our colleagues before, is, look, we know the problems. And we have been doing a lot. You said about pilots, we have been doing it. How do we get to scale and fast? Because methane is a yesterday agenda. We are late. We need to get this gas out quickly. And this is a sector that we can do it very quickly. So my question to you, at your level, the grassroots, what is it that you think that needs to be done, where we should be focusing at that level to promote an action faster, building on the amazing knowledge and everything?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I cannot agree more with you. I mean, all what you said, it makes a lot of sense. Actually, to make that happen, actually, all of us should be doing an effort. Actually, we should all be carrying like a reusable cap, for instance. We shouldn't be using things that are going to last in one hand 1 or 2 minutes, right? So it's an effort that the whole humanity needs to do, because we are, we all know, at a crisis. Therefore, in order to have all of these grassroots organizations and civil society initiatives coming into large scale, which is something that we really need, we need shift our attention towards those actions, and to look into people that hasn't been identified nor recognized. I mentioned many times in my presentation waste pickers. Waste pickers are there because they just found a way to make their livelihood, right? But nowadays they are actually our environmental heroes, because they are the only ones that, not just because of money, because they could actually be working in something else, but they really are driven, and they have this connection to the resources and to what it's good for our earth. And this is something that we should actually support, and we should open up the room, the space. We should bring them into conversation. We should bring them into the conversation of the plastic treaty, or the organics and the methane, because these are actors that have been there for many decades. They haven't had enough support. And so we have to integrate, of course, with things that we do have. We do have to reach scale. We were talking about it last night with our colleagues. It all depends where we are. For instance, in Chile, or the project I mentioned, you have remote areas where recycling, it's actually not a solution, because then if you have to bring 2,000 kilometers away the recycling into central Chile, because you don't have the facilities to deal with that in Patagonia, so what do you do with that, right? And then if we keep on thinking in the whole world as just one solution, we want to make it, we have to make tailored solutions, which of course takes more time. It takes more time actually to involve more actors and stakeholders into the process, but this is definitely what we have to see, or what we have to do, because otherwise we will have and end up in having and seeing the solutions that haven't really addressed the problem.